Hey everybody, Ron from Fallout Hobbies here, doing another live stream. I gotta tell you, it has been busy as hell, which is a good thing. As always, Jules is here.
Hey guys, what's up?
She's hanging out, she's doing some stuff. So any questions you guys have, we will answer in real time. That's kind of cheesy how I say that. I should change that up next time I do that. Today, I'm going to be doing some weathering techniques on a Nurgle Blight drone here. I am kind of excited about all the new Nurgle stuff that's coming out. And in fact, we got some in the store. It just needs to be added to the inventory. So that'll be up next week.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to have some more stuff. And I'm working on some new Nurgle bits right now, 3D printed bits that I would like to have on Chapter Customizer by the end of next week. If you do go to the Warband section of Chapter Customizer, we do have two Nurgle Warbands on there already. But I want to add some more bits to them, like some heads and stuff like that. So, working on that. I'm going to use some cool stuff today. I'm going to use some hairspray to do a salt weathering technique. And I'm going to amplify that with this really awesome oil brusher that I have from MIG, which is really cool. It's like an oil pen that, it's a little tight, but it's like a makeup pen, and you can brush streaks and stuff with it. It's pretty cool.
Carl Tanzer says, heresy, hell yeah.
Heresy, yes, it's a heretical day. And I also have this stuff that we've posted before. It's a little bit hard to find, but if you can find it, it's cool. It's called, it's literally called rust. It's dirty down rust. It comes from the UK. It's hard to find in the US, but every once in a while you'll find it in a shop. And this is probably the best rust liquid ever. So we're going to use all those things. I got to take my ring off so it doesn't get damaged. We're going to use all those things and work on this Blight drone and get him real nice and rusty. The first thing that we need to do is get an underlay, which I think for the underlay portion, I'm trying to see if I actually have a good rust paint here. Chocolate brown. Refracted green, that's a good one. That's a good green color for later. I just need to find a color. You know, I'm going to just kind of mix it up. I'm going to use this orange brown, but add just a touch of red to it to kind of rust it up, because I don't think I actually have a rust paint. I use it so often I wouldn't be surprised if I was out. Plug in the airbrush.
Dear Wade Fitzpatrick says, howdy.
Hey man, how's it going? Sorry we didn't do a live stream last week. We've just been really busy and catching up on orders, and I'm in the process of restructuring our work area a little bit, and Jules and I are trying to not go insane with COVID fatigue right now, so...
I don't know. I've been, like, pretty entertained. Have y'all been, like, paying attention to the sheer anarchy of nerds versus Wall Street yesterday? It's just fantastic.
Taking it to the streets.
It's the best thing I've seen, like, in a while. So, Wall Street bets on Reddit. It's great stuff.
Getting the airbrush primed up, we want to get the base color of rust going on. Yeah, way too many chords that might be here. All right. I'm mixing up a little bit of Vallejo orange brown, but I'm adding a touch of red to it to get it to be a really nice orangey rust color. I'm not worried about the skin areas here. Just painting the armor. I feel like I need to thin this up a little bit. Seems just a little bit thick. I really need to buy a more silent compressor.
Dan Osborne's checking in with us. He says, yo.
What's up, Dan?
He says, working with the oil brushes, question mark.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing the oil brush, some brush streaks later on in the video after I get through a couple of the colors.
And Dan is a really, really super talented painter, so he's actually going to be working on a night for the charity auction in February. And Winter Hobby Fest, if you haven't checked it out.
Winter Hobby Fest is around the corner. I got my Hobby Fest model, which is one of the new Necron monoliths. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's the first time we've done it, so Army Painter's actually sponsoring us with some paint kits.
Iwata?
Iwata is too.
Yeah, Iwata's donating an airbrush for one of the prize raffles. It's one of the raffles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dan says, nice. Those are fun products to work with. I've got a ton of them.
I got a little bit of a claw going on here. Just give me 1 second.
He says, oh, sweet. Yeah, those monoliths look great. Super big.
Yeah, the monolith I'm going to be doing with LEDs, but I'm also going to be using UV paint and UV LEDs to make things like the portal glow and the crystal that's in the top and all that. It's going to be pretty epic when it's done. I'm going to be doing that as my early tutorial videos, and then by the 14th, which is when the auction...
The auction starts on the 14th on Valentine's Day, but Winter Hobby Fest actually starts on February 3rd.
Yeah,
so.
I'm using the monolith for my first couple videos, and then I'll have it up on the auction block by the 14th. Man, this clock. Sorry, guys. I made the paint a little bit too thick here and kind of jammed up the brush. Just need a minute to get that out of there. Stuff always happens on camera. There we go. Okay. I think we got a good coat of rust color here on everything. Oh, hold on. Make sure all the turbines are gotten. This coat doesn't have to be super even either, because this is like the underlay. You'll see what I mean in a minute. It's like the underlay before you put the green and everything on it. So let's let that dry for a minute while I start prepping everything else and cleaning my airbrush. The next step will be hairspray and salt, which makes a lovely combination when you get it on your fingers, I gotta tell you. It's disgusting. But then my models end up smelling like girls that I dated in high school.
I don't want to know.
Because it smells like Aussie hairspray. You're like, where are you going with that joke? Were you dating some salty ladies?
I have no idea.
You have no idea. For everyone out there, I perpetually confuse my wife. And I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry I didn't have any hairspray to hook you up. It's like, when do I use hairspray anymore?
Yeah,
we don't go anywhere.
I mean, unless you're like doing your bangs up like it's the 80s or something.
I don't have bangs.
Like when they hairsprayed their bangs straight up.
Huh.
That was a joke. That was a bad joke.
I used to have that, and like the denim jacket and the short little denim skirts. That used to be my jam.
Oh, yeah.
Leg warmers.
All right, so here's the thing. For the rust salting technique to work, I need to wait a few more minutes because I still see some wet spots on the paint here. The basic premise of it is you spray the model down with some hairspray, you sprinkle salt throughout it, you kind of brush it out a little bit so the salt's really just kind of in the recesses. And then in order to make it really effective, you need to have the paint that you're painting over top of it be such a nice contrast, because if you're doing something that's like reddish colored, you know, reddish orange colored with the salts, then you're going to want something that's, you know, either like blue or turquoise or purple or something like that, so that the orange red color of the rust really shines through. I have this color that is called cockpit green faded, and it's a very nice turquoise color. This is a little bit too bright for Death Guard, but this is going to end up being the highlight color. So I'm going to be using this as a basis and mixing it down with some other darker greens. I have greens in chromate, which is always a really nice green. It's a military color. But the chromate has like a little bit of blue in it. So it's not like a flat green. It's kind of like a darkish bluish green. So something like this would be a good base color, and then using this bright blue on the highlights and the outer edges of everything. And then when you remove the salt away from it, it'll be like this sharp contrast, which will look pretty cool, I think, I hope. I mean, I've done this before. If anyone's familiar with any of the armies that I've had before, I had a whole Nurgle army that was called Mariner's Blight that was really popular on the internet for a while. I still see it pop up from time to time. And it's a H.P. Lovecraft themed Nurgle army, and they were all rusted and corroded and had all the effects and everything going on. So I used the same technique for them, and it worked out very, very well. This time around, I have the new Nurgle models, which I enjoy a lot. They're very nicely detailed. And I'm also going to be using brighter colors than I did with the Mariner's Blight. They were more of a traditional green. I'm using more of like an aquamarine green this time. So, let's see how we're doing here. I think it's good enough to start doing this. Let's get out the hairspray. For the viewers that like to comment, yes, I have a condiment cup filled with salt. It's actually filled with a condiment this time.
That's funny.
It's the first time I've ever used it, and there's actually a food product in it.
I used to. The reason why I even had them was back before COVID and, you know, being able to actually socialize and intermingle with people. Those make like great Jello shot cups.
Yes, they do. So you spritz it with the hairspray, and then you give it a very, which smells really good, by the way, this hairspray, and you give it a very good coating of salt. And then there's going to be one more thing that you do before you start applying the paint. So let me just get a good salt coating on here. The salt also, some of it does end up getting trapped under the paint even after you remove it, and it creates a really nice, you know, corroded texture, like it's popping the paint out, like growing underneath the paint. So that always looks pretty cool too. I just sprayed my thumb. There's a few sections I'm going to go a little bit heavier on, just because I kind of want to make sure that there's some really nice exposed rust. This can be, I'm going to have to shake that off in a minute. So here's the one thing that you want to do before you start painting. You take a fat brush, make sure it's dry, and I want to make sure that there's areas, I want to make sure that the salt is in the recesses and that there's areas that are a little bit more open, because that's where the green paint will be. So I'm kind of brushing this away from the edges so that it kind of jams the salt more into the cracks.
Dan says he's doing a Death Watch commission. They're coming out nice, but it's a clean color scheme, and he'd much rather be weathering the snot out of something.
Yeah. Weathering's fun. Dan is really fucking top notch at weathering. All of his Chaos Knights look like they've been sitting out in the rain or on some kind of like toxic planet for like 50 years, which is good because that's exactly what they're supposed to look like. think we're good. So see how I was brushing the salt away from like the edges right here? That's because I want the salt in the recesses, but not the edges. I want the edges to be more of the blue-green color that I'm working on. So I'm kind of manipulating where the salt will actually be. Same with right here. I want more open space on the front, you know, and more green around the edges. So I'm removing the salt from some of those areas. Okay, I think we're good. I'm going to, I'm just going to flip this over so I have an area to work with on the back end.
Dan says the salt technique is fantastic, super fun, and great results.
Yeah.
And Cass Caswell is asking if that is rust powder.
It is not rust powder, it's salt. You will see how it makes things look rusty in a moment. Because I sprayed it with hairspray, I sprinkled the salt, I removed the salt from some of the edges. Now I'm going to start painting the green colors. When the green colors are all dry, I'll be able to take a brush that has warm water on it and brush it over the model, and it'll clear the salt away, exposing the rusty colors underneath of it, which will look really cool. Blow the salt out of the camera. Get out of here. Get out of here. Get off my table. See, I told you this is what...
Oh.
Yeah, I'm just airbrushing your keyboard there for you.
Thanks.
All right, I'm going to start with some green zinc chromate, and then I'm going to start leveling up to this cockpit green color. Just some straight up green zinc chromate. Let's get it flowing here. There we go. I gotta clean this brush out again, it's being weird. I'm going a little heavy with the paint, that's okay. I need it to be a little bit more thick for the effect. Almost there. Remember, I did a whole Bane blade with this effect. That was a big model, but it looked great when it was done. Almost done here. right. Let's let that sit for just a moment. Clean this airbrush out. All right, time for the next color. I am going to put a little bit of green zinc chromate in here, but it's mostly going to be this very lovely color called Cockpit Green Faded, which is a very nice turquoise color. All right, I'm liking this green. I'm gonna hit it I'm gonna let that dry for a second and hit it one more time with just the pure turquoise green. Get a little back up in here. Okay. All right. That's got to dry for a few minutes because we can't move on to the next step until it fully dries. This is a great opportunity to grab a cup of coffee, clean out an airbrush, whatever. Smoke them if you got them. Any comments over there?
Nope.
Okay. right, let me go get some warm water for this. Would you like another coffee?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Paul says looks great so far. And Carl says it's green. What you wanted to comment. Yeah, it's very green. I'm good with you guys just watching. I'm being like all productive over here working on retirement stuff.
I was just curious if there was
Yeah.
What are you doing?
You have a Roth IRA now.
Oh. Well, okay.
Multitasking.
Alright, let's get some warm water.
Dearmwood says that he's read about this method, but he's interested to see how it turns out. Yeah, I'm interested to see how this turns out too.
I'm just getting hot water. Takes a minute for these pipes to warm up. Alright, I think we can get to the point where we start brushing the salt away. Let me get a good brush for that. This is a messy technique, so you're definitely going to want to use a brush that's kind of beat up. I just dunked it. Just gonna dunk the whole thing in there. There we go. I didn't realize this panel wasn't still not clean. Yes, it's a little bit messy. That's really starting to look the part there. I found that you can get different techniques using different things. Like, for instance, if you use a thicker salt, like a more coarsely ground salt, you can get some bigger rust chunks. Um, Also, the rust adds a really nice texture to the paint, making it look like it's corroded. You might want to explore the idea of, after removing the rust, after removing the salt, I'm sorry, putting the airbrush back to it and maybe airbrushing some of the flat areas if you want to get a little bit more contrast between flat and textured. Also, this guy's going to have a lot of contrast because there's still whole skin areas that I need to paint. But that's going to be after all the armor sections are done. You might want to avoid using a clear coat like Krylon or any kind of enamel clear coat. Stick to an acrylic clear coat with a model that's done in this technique, because if there is residual salt on the model, which there's bound to be residual salt somewhere, you're not going to be able to clear it all off. If there's residual salt, it can sometimes kind of grow, is the term I'm looking for, I guess, grow underneath the clear coat. And if it's an acrylic clear coat, it won't have a reaction. But if it's like an enamel clear coat or something like that, it'll create like these weird little fog areas. And all of a sudden you'll get like little white patches in different sections of the model.
Vicky and Alan McKee Jennison is asking, what method have you used? I usually use Vallejo chipping method. Hairspray technique is good also.
I use it all. I like Vallejo chipping paint. That stuff's cool. Their chipping medium. Their crackle medium's also pretty cool too. I have combined the salt method with crackle paint before, and it got some pretty cool effects. That's on my old blog from back in the day. Also, I'm going to do something in a minute to enhance the whole effect. Ugh, this table's wrecked now, but that's okay. Let's shake this out. Okay. Look at that. Is that delicious? Salt, hairspray, and paint. It's wonderful. Let me get a fresher piece of paper under here so everyone could see what I'm doing a little bit better. Right here. Right next to you. Okay. Shake that model out. I'm going to try to sop up some of this extra moisture before I do the next layer. Okay, so when working with this, you got some pretty cool, like, chipping paint areas on this model already. But you can amplify that a little bit by adding a wash of a color that's the exact opposite of what you painted. A thin wash, that is. So, what I like to do when I'm painting greens is to do a thin wash, a very thin wash, of purple. In this case, Drugi Violet. What it does is it's not going to change everything to purple. Everything will still look green. But because purple's on the opposite end of the color wheel from green, it's a natural complementary color, and it'll kind of shade the little cracks and bump areas of it.
Vicky and Alan McKee. Jennison says, I'll have to give the crackle technique a try on one of my chaos nights. Carl Tanzer says, all filled with chemical products, and also says, it's actually a great idea. And he's replying to Vicky and Alan.
All right. I put some airbrush. That's great comments, guys. I've put some flow improver in here, and just like 1 scoop of purple. Not a lot. I'm making it a thin wash. And my airbrush is clogged. That's okay. I gotta clean this guy out. I've been using him a lot lately.
And Vicky and Alan says, yeah, it is a good idea.
Okay. So now the purple wash is setting in. So what's going to happen is, I don't know how well you guys can see this on the camera, but the purple wash has gotten into areas like these little cracks where the paint is all fraggly, and it amplified the contrast of the cracks in there. So you can still get in there and kind of like brush away some areas where you want to expose a little bit more detail, like these pipes I'd like to expose a little bit more. I'm going to get in there with the brush a little bit. This pulled away too much. So I'm going to go back in there with the airbrush and fix that up a little bit, because that pulled away a little bit too much for my liking. I can fix that though.
Dearwood says, wow, that corrosion looks epic.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was going for. I'm just going to fix this one area where the rust pulled away a little bit too much for my liking. There we go. Now, this really needs to dry a bit before I get into other stuff. What I think I'm actually going to do is I think I'm going to pick this up in next week's video because I want to paint the 2 more Blight drones to be the same level. But I need to let this dry because I want to do the rust liquid and I want to do the oil pen. But I can't do oil paint on top of acrylic paint when it's wet. That's just not going to work. And this rust liquid's not going to flow properly until like some of the like wet areas here come out. So I think I'm going to call it for today on this video, and we're going to follow up on this next Thursday when I do the next video. I'm going to get the 2 other Blight drones up to the same point, and then we'll be able to go from there with additional weathering, and we're also going to work on the skin sections of them too, because that's going to have some techniques on it as well that I want to do.
And be sure, if you haven't checked it out already, I pinned a link at the top of the comments to the Winter Hobby Fest event, so be sure to check that out too.
And thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we'll be here next Thursday, and be safe out there. Don't try to go insane from COVID. Try to keep your wits about you, and keep painting stuff. All right, have a good one, everyone.